find yourself at the booth, order up a cold one. This is the Spring Bar.
Hey everybody, welcome to Spring Bar. Glad to have you here. I am Florida Mike. Today, we're discussing the things that being part of the watch community has taught us. The good, the bad, the ugly. Speaking of ugly, as always, joined by my co-host, Joe in the OC.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
See, when you get to be the one that does the intros, you can sneak stuff like that in there.
Uh-huh.
How you doing, Joe?
Uh-huh. Motherfucker. I'm fine. I'm just
How is
fine.
it? Are you doing okay? Because you messaged me extremely early this morning.
Yeah, I was up. I got up at about 2, just awake. Like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll go sit in the living room and scroll through Instagram.
So
And
did you ever go back to sleep, or have
yeah,
you
I
been
went
up?
back. I got back to sleep. I got back to
Oh, you
sleep
took a
about
little nap.
5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean it's not god awful, but
So you're not completely grumpy, Joe.
oh no, grumpy is sort of a baseline. I like to be
Yeah.
consistent.
You're just usual grumpy.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
not extra. Just
Do you have a grumpy shirt like the dwarf?
you assume I like Disney.
That doesn't have to do with if you like Disney or not. It has to do with your personality. So again, I ask the question, do you have a grumpy shirt?
No,
Okay.
no. Why would I have a grumpy shirt? I'm not a Disney fanboy. Not my thing.
You don't? Okay. Not going to keep going round and around
Here's the
here.
deal. I show up wearing a grumpy shirt. It's like, oh, you like Disney? It's like, no, I'm just grumpy. I might as well just get one that just says grumpy, and then I don't need to have a dwarf on it, and that makes everything work out better.
They prefer little people, Joe.
I'm sorry, they were the 7 dwarfs. It's not Snow White and the 7 little people. I mean, we can argue about the title. I'm not saying that it's appropriate. I'm just saying that's the name of the thing.
Oh gosh, we should continue before this turns south
Uh-huh.
real quick.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
You got anything new, Mike?
I don't have anything new, Joe. Why don't you ask me what I'm wearing?
I don't want to. Why don't you tell me what you got in the glass first? Let's start with that.
You want to start with the? Well, I don't have it in a glass. I have to pour it. I'm drinking a vintage 2020 Hess Select Cabernet Sauvignon.
Ooh, that's
I
nice.
Yeah, this is leftover from when my family was here, and I found the bottle underneath the bar, and I thought, oh, well, I'll pour myself some of this today. It's actually quite nice, very flavorful, a little on
Could
the
be
dry
more so
side.
now that it's oxidized a little bit, having been unrefrigerated underneath your bar, which,
Yeah.
as we all know, is the perfect wine storage space.
That is delightful.
Delightful. All
Yes.
right, so you've got nothing new, but what's on the wrist today?
I am.
You tell
Are
me.
you gonna are you gonna
Yes,
put it
I
up on
am.
the
You say,
screen?
say it. Say it. Say it.
I am wearing my 19, what is this? A 1972? I gotta take it off here real quick. This is a
And
1972 wrist alarm.
it looks like that.
We could have skipped past this.
We could have, but but you got to say what it, I mean, knowing what it is, because you managed to take a beautiful picture with the minutes hand covering up the alarm. So it's a bull of wrist.
Okay,
Oh.
well, wrist arm. There's an A, there's an R, there's an M, and it's on an arm. So it's a wrist
It
arm.
is wrist
Yeah.
arm. It's a
No,
nice one though, because that blue.
this is my favorite. It's a little modernized because it's from the 70s, but it's chunky, blocky, it has the color. The movement is a little more refined than the previous ones, a little bit more robust.
Aren't there 2 dial variants of that watch? Isn't there a lighter dial? Isn't there a white dial of that?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think there's something. I think I've seen another one.
I
It
think,
might not be
Joe,
the same year.
I think you have a white balance issue on your computer screen because everything that you think is blue looks white to me. So
Shut the fuck up.
I've never seen a white dial version of this watch.
I'll see if I can
you ever
find
come
it.
across it, if
I'll,
you ever
I'll
come
yeah.
across it, send it to me.
It's kicking around, but I have been drinking since what?
Because the one thing, Joe, that I've learned that being in watches has taught me is that we're always learning, right?
Nice, nice
Yeah,
time. Uh-huh.
yeah.
And
So
so
what do you got in the glass?
I am drinking a wild berry truly at the moment because I ran out of champagne. So
And on the wrist, would you like
on
to
the
show the
wrist,
people?
on the wrist, I have because I can do this. I have
Blue wrist alarm.
a blue
Oh
wrist
wait,
alarm.
no.
No, I have
Oh,
my
there it is.
redial orange snorkel.
We wanted to believe that that
Oh,
was
so badly,
original so
so
bad, didn't
badly.
we?
There is another snorkel. It's a different case shape. It's got a sector dial, and that one's legit. It's not nearly as cool as this layout. It's a different layout that's orange, and there's actually not anything else like it in the catalog. It's like just that one, but this one is as near as I can figure. It is a orange redial of I believe it's probably a Snorkel G, which is because Bulova got it weird. There's the Snorkel G and the Snorkel H, and then I think there's the Snorkel
Put
F.
put the picture back up again.
Uh,
Because we've come to the agreement that this is a redial.
yeah,
However, if this is in fact a redial, this is the best one we've ever seen. Because usually with
it's
redials,
really solid. Like if you're thinking about it in terms of redial, like the giveaways are the color of the loop. All of the watches of this style, if they are vintage and they haven't had a redial done, they get real puffy. The loom gets
well,
really puffy. It overlays, it goes outside of all of like you don't get to see much of the outlines of anything else.
yeah.
And the outlines are also usually in white rather than in black.
But not
So
only that, the text, you can
yeah,
always tell by the text too. The text is usually off. It's usually thicker,
yeah,
thinner, not quite the same font. This is exact. It
yeah.
is
It's really
exact.
good. It's a really good redial, which is like it's one of the reasons that there was a premium for it. I'm happy to have it. I love it. I think it's a great looking watch. It gets a ton of compliments anytime I show up with it, but it's not legit. So
It I will go with it's a redial. We both agree that it's a redial. There's no evidence that supports that is an original orange dial. However, have to leave a little bit of possibility there that
you
that might
do.
be some sort of a prototype something
It could
because
be a
it's too
prototype.
perfect not to be right.
It could be a prototype dial. It could be a variety of things, right? There's nothing on the case back that gives me a year for this. I want to say it's like 67. I think that's what the movement is labeled as. I mean, everything else about the watch is correct. The case is correct. The bezel is correct. All of that sort of stuff. But the fact that the markers are as white as they are, if it even if it was a prototype dial, I imagine they would have done the loom on that. So I'm leaning real heavy towards redial, and I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Doesn't bother me
it's
greatly.
still it's still good.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, you got nothing new, right? You're not.
I don't have anything in hand new. I did buy something though. Oh, I bought something yesterday.
You're welcome.
I know. I'm going to tease it real quick.
Okay.
It's how can I tease it?
You wouldn't wear it.
No, it's not something I would wear, but it's an Art Deco watch, which is very odd for me to have purchased an Art Deco watch. Extremely old, all original.
Did you get a
As
year for
original.
that? I didn't see what the year was.
It didn't have a year associated with it, but everything points to a specific year.
Does it? Okay.
I don't want to say what year, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do. I have one, or I don't have one, but I've purchased one. Anyway, so you got nothing new in hand.
I have nothing new in hand that I get to really fully talk about. So, but I know you do.
I do.
You got a couple things. One thing that I was expecting, and one that's a surprise purchase. So
it is. It is. So what I've got today.
What are we starting with?
We're starting with.
Oh yeah.
We'll start with that. We'll start with that. This is the Italian Market Skin Diver, double-sided lollipop. It's small, man. It wears incredibly tiny because of that black minute track all around the outside.
Yeah.
It's kind of got this early 80s Omega dynamic kind of spider web vibe sort of thing going on. Like the bezel moves, the integrated bracelet, the lug stand really kind of proud. It's moving on.
I was surprised to hear that the bezel actually rotates. It does. Looks like a fixed bezel.
It does. It moves, and it moves relatively well. It's a pressure fit, and it's bidirectional.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's moving on. If you're interested, give me a shout. It'll be listed shortly.
Okay. No, hold on. Don't think you're moving away from this that fast.
Keep going.
Okay. Please explain to the people why you bought this thing. Because you got it. It came. You took some pictures of it, and immediately you said, "No, it's not staying."
Oh no!
Why did you buy it in the first? And it wasn't cheap.
It was. I mean, I'm think I'm into this for like $350. I'm going to take a loss, and I'm okay with that. It's an experiential thing, but it was an impulse buy, and I blame Oliver. Oliver, you did this, so it's Oliver's fault.
Why did Oliver talk you into this?
He showed it. He sent me a picture, and I got sucked in by the red dial, and here I am.
It's completely out of what you buy.
It is. It's a dive watch ish. It's Italian Market, which I'm partial to. I like that kind of stuff. I've got a couple Italian models. I do, and I like it.
You have or you had?
I have had, and I currently have a couple.
Oh, okay. Because it usually seems that whatever you buy from the Italian Market, you never hang on to.
It's sort of true. I think that my red dial snorkel, which has a Spanish day wheel, that one comes from the Italian Market. And so do a couple. I think the green one also is from the Italian Market because you just can't find those. They weren't available domestically. So if it's not Italian Market, it's European. But there's this weird specificity that goes on with the Italian watches, and Bulova didn't shy away from that either, compared to even other brands. Speedmasters did specific. Omega did specific Italian Market watches. I know that Rolex has done a couple. So the Italian Market, they like things that are unique, and I'm okay with that. Like I had that four-hander, that double date. I had that, and that was probably Italian. I've had a couple others, and I've currently got a kind of an Explorer dial that we're waiting. I've got to send that out for repair to get that service. It needs a crown, but yeah. I like Italian Market stuff. This just doesn't fit with what I'm doing.
You like to buy Italian Market stuff. You don't like to keep it, which leads me to believe that you don't really like it.
I'm not keeping this, so who knows? Moving on.
Okay.
Let's move on to that. I'm keeping that.
You bought a
Bulova Surveyor pistachio dial with a factory bracelet. It doesn't come on a bracelet. It comes on a strap. The strap came with it, box, extra links, all the rest. And the bracelet's really nice because it comes with half links. So did
the bracelet come with this purchase?
Yes.
You had it? So everything came together.
Bracelet came with this purchase. So the person who sold it had bought it separately.
Okay. All right.
purchased the bracelet separately, threw it onto the watch because remember when I did the review of this, right? The red dial and the hunter green dial both came on bracelets. And you throw the bracelet on the pistachio, it lightens that dial so much. I believe it comes on. I don't think is it black? It's black or dark brown. The
it's like
OEM bracelet,
dark brown.
It might be. I forget.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good bracelet. It's a good quality bracelet or good quality strap. But the bracelet's the way that this needs to be. It's so much better. I love it. I absolutely love it. So much so. And so the other thing that I purchased was vintage ribbon straps for the Rubaiyat. And this is going to be a work in progress because you can see that it's like an 11 millimeter ribbon and it's a 13 millimeter lug. So,
but did they exactly match the lug size? The ribbons back then?
It's hard to say because nobody seems to know since that ribbon would be over 100 years old. So it changes the way
I think it works. I think it fits.
It does. It works. It's
style.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. My only concern is that it moves around and it will rub. And so that will cause wear on the ribbon. And then that would be a problem. But I don't think it's going to be a problem for a long, long time because I don't think my wife is going to wear that watch every day. And it's like it got dated back to 1921. So that's an old watch. That's an old watch that is working and working relatively well. So
speaking of working and working relatively well, going back to what was it last episode, the Accutron Deep Sea that I have. An update. I am learning how to adjust, regulate, whatever you want to call, whatever it is that you do to a tuning fork movement. It's a combination of adjusting the pawl bridge and the timing plates on the end of the cups themselves. As of right now, I have it running 2 seconds slow per day, and I still have some adjustment to speed that up a little bit. So I'm pretty confident I can get this spot on.
I don't doubt it. Those watches are so the astronaut that you have. When I had that one serviced, I told the person who was servicing it, the guy who serviced it was asking, he's like, how do you wear it? What do you do with this? Like, okay, I've got a really deep rotation. This watch is going to sit face up most of the time. It's like, fine, then I will adjust it to be face up. And it was dead nuts for years, man. Like maybe 2 seconds a month, probably less.
It's probably a little faster than that now.
You wear it more than I did.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I hack it and re-zero the seconds once every 60 days, if that.
Yeah.
And it'll be maybe 12 seconds off over that time frame.
Yeah,
running fast. I mean,
the Accutron tuning fork movements are just if you can get it dialed in, they're stupid. Just stupid good.
Yeah. Still, all these years later.
Yeah. For
I mean, that astronaut is 61 years old.
Easy. Yeah.
The Deep Sea is what, 55 years old? I mean, and they're still running like this? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. I don't disagree with you.
Well, Joe,
that's all I got.
The meat and potatoes of today's episode.
This is your episode, by the way. I want to point out to everybody, like last week was my episode. You had no idea what was going on. You didn't pay attention. I, at least, did some pre-work on all of this. And so I have some idea of what we're discussing and why we're discussing it. I just want to throw that out there for our listening public.
You did a good job throwing this together last night, Joe.
Continue. This morning. Thank you very much.
This morning. Okay.
Yes.
So we're kind of reflecting a little bit. We're not really talking watches. We're talking about what the hobby has taught us, what our takeaways are from it, kind of the things that stand out about the hobby to us. You and I each got a couple of different points. Surprisingly, they're all different. So I think we'll get a good range of stuff here to discuss.
All right. So we'll lead with you. You've got the first takeaway here, which is that.
You got to have an open mind. You got to have an open mind about what watches and collecting means to each individual person. And that goes for any hobby, really, right? Everybody is going to come at it with a different view. They're going to come at it and enjoy the hobby in a way that fulfills them. And it might not line up to what you do, what you see, what you like. But the one thing is, and everybody always kind of praises the Watch Fam about being so open and inviting, more so than other groups of different hobbies. Um, you have to just be able to enjoy that others enjoy in their own way. And you listen to their stories and how they got involved and what things mean to them. And you start to learn a lot about an individual person.
Huh?
What do you mean, huh?
I mean, huh? So keep an open mind. All right. Okay. Okay. That's an odd way to go about saying what you said, though, because to me, it's not even so much about even keeping an open mind, and we're going to touch on a lot of the same themes because I think you and I, the fact we get along, that means that we've got a real um, similar impetus behind our motivation within this in this community. Even though we're both Bulova collectors, we're both Caravel Accutron collectors. However, you have a very specific niche that you like, and there's watches that you have in your collection that just absolutely disgust me. And there are watches that I have that I'm certain you wouldn't wear ever, which
But
isn't to say that that's a bad thing, right?
and how many times have you said to me, let's take the Louis Gerard, for instance.
Oh God,
That is
yes.
a watch that you have said time and time again that you would never wear it, you would never buy it.
No,
It does
no,
not work for
no, it
you,
doesn't work for me
but
at
you
all.
appreciate what that watch does for me.
For you, 100%. And I guess that would fit into your collection. And I actually honestly think that if you were to go hard that way, that's the tip of the iceberg for you. And that you could fill your collection with watches like that and let that watch sort of start to redefine your entire collection. I could see that happening for you real easy. And that could be, in terms of your collection, that could be a defining piece and a shift piece in terms of what it is that you do and how you collect. And
But see,
I don't disagree. And I don't think that that's a bad thing.
and that's the open-mindedness that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because you don't like the watch, you would never buy the watch. The watch wouldn't last in your
Oh
collection.
hell no.
Doesn't
Absolutely not.
mean that it doesn't mean something to me, and it doesn't represent something, and you can appreciate that. And then it opens up dialogue, and then perhaps you learn something you didn't know. I learned something from you, whatever. I mean, that's all what it's about. If you keep an open mind, like we said before, you're always learning, and that just helps
Yeah.
broaden your learning horizons.
I mean, there's a ton of interesting things that come with that. And I don't disagree with you in the slightest in that aspect. And I'm going to touch on some very similar thoughts, but I'm coming at it from a different angle than you are. And so I think that it's, the open-mindedness comes into play. And I don't think that it's a bad thought. Also from the fact that there's things that, particularly if we're talking about the watch collecting journey, right? Because you start in one place. It's like, hey, I need a watch. I need to be able to tell the time. Oh, this is kind of cool. Huh, look at that. There's other things I can learn. Oh, and you start getting into the watch community. Like, I think that almost anyone who's listening to this or watching this will have there's going to be a shift someplace. You're going to redefine your collection. I know people that are redefining their collection on a daily basis. I know people that have decided what they want and they stick with it. They haven't gotten anything new in multiple years. They're satisfied with their collection. They are eliminating parts of their collection. The journey it's a personal one, but at some point it will change for you. And as soon as it starts to change, keeping that open mind will allow you to be flexible and allow you to be a little bit more nimble. And I think that's a big plus.
Yeah, yeah. And mine changed early on in my collecting. I went from watch modding, watch homages, and things like that very quickly into Bulova specific stuff.
Mm. And I would say I would argue that you've branched out a little bit since then.
How so?
Xeric, the Timex stuff. I think you may have picked up more Timex recently, with the exception of the Jetsstars, right?
Yeah.
And then your Louis Rod, which
yeah,
and the Louis Rod, I think that's a really interesting piece for you because it's not one that you would have bought, and it ended up being an acquisition for your collection because of your connections within the watch community. And to me, that makes it even more special.
For sure. Yeah.
For you.
Anything that's acquired through friendship,
yeah,
is that much more special. And I have
those relationships.
I have several pieces like that.
Yes.
And those are ones and that's why I can never go down to, quote unquote 3-watch collection, 5-watch collection, anything like that. Just for the simple fact that there is stuff that will never leave that will not allow me to get down to that number. So,
yeah, but that, even with that, I think that you've got a core collection and then you have sentimental watches, and there's a difference. So
there's a difference. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Your next point, sir, which is
justifying the purchase.
All right.
There it is.
Talk about that. What the fuck?
I'm not saying that I have learned how to justify a purchase. What I'm saying is every watch collector goes through this. We will justify to no end the reason why we have to buy something that we don't need.
Okay, but hang on. This is something that you have learned through your journey, or this is something that you are
I have learned.
Unlearn?
I'm not trying to unlearn it, because if I unlearn it, I'll never buy anything again. But I have learned that it's bad. It's bad because
you have to justify it.
It's bad that I find reasons to justify why I need something. It's like, oh, here's this watch. Oh, it's a good price. I really probably shouldn't spend the money, but you know what? When am I going to find this again? When is it going to be this price? I've really wanted this. One more ain't going to kill me. Yeah, I don't need Netflix this month. It's that kind of stuff. Everybody does it. We all find some way at some point to justify buying something that we either A, shouldn't be buying or don't need, or whatever the case may be. And you do it too. And I feel like that's why you have a red dial Italian market skin diver-ish watch.
Oh, that's absolutely. That's why I have that purchase 100%. But the other part for that, and it has even less to do with maybe it comes into justifying the purchase. Maybe it plays into that. Is that, figuring out what you like comes at a cost. And sometimes you don't know until you get it. And it's like, all right, I paid a price for that.
With watches and buying watches, usually it's not a sight unseen purchase. You're looking at what it is you're going to buy. And I feel like if you don't like the way that it looks, you're not going to like the way that it looks in person and on your wrist. It's very different. Okay, I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. But if you genuinely don't like it in the pictures, if you're on the fence about it, Yes, you
Right.
need to see it in person in order to understand.
Discretion is probably the better part of valor in that situation.
Okay.
And
It's,
and I
but what I'm
knew I
saying is
knew
it's different than trying like different alcohols, different whiskeys, for example. Like you don't know what a bottle of whiskey is going to taste like until you buy it. And it's not until then that you take it home, open it, pour yourself a glass that you realize either you like it, you made a good purchase, or B, you don't, and you give it on to somebody else. And watch is a little different
I
than
have
that.
never. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You need to back the fuck up. I have never given a bottle of whiskey to anybody else that I didn't like. I will finish that. I will take it down to the bitter end. I will not put that onto somebody else. I will share it with other people, and if they like it, they're more than welcome to drink it while they're in my home. But it's not leaving with them. Oh, for
Uh,
fuck's sake!
well, I've given whiskey away.
Well,
I've
yeah, but I
also
mean,
I've
look,
also poured beer out.
you're drinking week old wine that we found under your bar. Not that
It's
I get
still
to
perfectly
speak more
fine.
because I'm here drinking Trulies out of a glass, but still, man, you said it was freshly opened. It's chilled. Come on.
There's nothing wrong with this bottle of wine. It tastes just as good as when we open it up.
There's something wrong. You are dead inside.
Oh gosh, okay.
Dead. Dead
This
inside.
this segues
Jason and I are going to talk about you.
segues into my next bullet point,
Uh-huh.
which is go ahead and click it. The friendships we develop.
Yes.
Friendships and connections. Joe, Joe, I love you. And you know how many times I have to remind myself of that.
What else would you be doing on your weekends?
I'll tell you what. So Joe's and I friendship is largely text based. We don't call each other. We're not talking on the phone all the time. We're not doing FaceTimes and things like that. But the majority of our friendship is through group chats and text messages and things like that. Now, granted, we talk from sun up to sundown. Like there's not a moment when you and I are not talking about something.
Pretty close, yeah.
If
also it's very interesting sun up to sundown because you are on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So there's a weird lag that happens sometimes.
Sun up ish to sundown ish.
Yes.
Okay.
And also I think I want to point out that shit. You and I are in what, maybe 6 different group chats?
Maybe, but 2 pretty consistently.
There's 2 that are main, but there's at least 6 that show up from time to time, which is really interesting considering that we've got people in multiple time zones that are all part of some of these same conversations. So anyway,
are we the glue, Joe, that holds all these people together?
Might be.
Oh. But so my point is our communications is largely text based. If the outside person were to read our messages, you would think we hate each other. Some of the conversations that we have and the arguments that go on, and some of it is just because I'm bored and I just feel like being an ass. And so I'll just say stupid shit. And I'm sure you're probably the same way too.
No. No, I am generally not trying to troll anybody on a fairly regular basis. That's not my intent. Like, and so the thing that happens, it's also kind of interesting, regardless of which text thread we're talking about. There are things, and I think you're probably the same way. I'm not going to speak for you, but for me, I will share certain items or certain articles or certain images
based on the group.
Yeah. Like, I know that this is something that the aesthetic of this particular watch sits better with these people versus the aesthetic of this watch, which sits better with these people. And like, and you tailor your conversations in around the same way. And so like for me personally, I have a lot of people on Instagram reaching out saying, hey, I'm looking for whatever. And when they do, it's like, okay, I file that away, I keep it. And then on Saturday morning is my watch internet time.
Mhm.
and I go through random weird auction sites and other I find bizarre
You
crap.
find some weird stuff.
I find some really weird, but then I have to be judicious about, okay, who am I sharing it to? Who's looking for what? Where does this go? And there's there's a variety of things that
You and I are both in all of these text groups.
right.
Is there groups that I'm not a part of that you don't share stuff with me?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got, there's other people that have reached out to things that want information about other items, and there and I have it from a variety of different media
It's not
spaces
like
too.
I found this watch Saturday morning and I'm not going to share it with Mike because he'll hate it.
Oh no. I
Okay.
found this watch Saturday morning, and I'm going to share it with Mike because I know he'll hate it. But I'm sharing it with Mike because I know that it's interesting, and it's not something that he has seen before. And I am broadening everybody's world in this,
Oh,
right?
thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
come on, right? I just like so Saturday, yesterday we were recording.
Mhm.
It was that yacht timer, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I
And
haven't
it
seen that
was
before.
you've never seen it before, and it was you kind of liked it.
It's that's funny because
You can see.
we had a conversation, and I forget which tech group it was, about if Bulova made a yacht timer, we might actually like that. And
Wolves
as
made
it turns out,
three.
they made one.
They made three. They made three
Hmm.
different ones. Oh yeah, three totally separate. There's two quartz. That one I think is also quartz, and it's a black dial version. I've never seen that one before either. They've got there's like that weird Aquastar one that's got the 5 dots. And I think they have a version of that. And that's without getting into the Fleet Commander, which is the Bulova version of the Rolex Yacht Master One.
Yeah.
There's a Bulova version of that, right? Which I think I might end up with at some point. I might get one of those.
Didn't you
I
have
keep
one?
it. I didn't have one. I had the GMT2.
But you didn't have a Yacht Master one? I thought you did. Huh, maybe not. Okay. Maybe you sent it
No.
in the chat.
Oh, I put them up all the time. When I ever as soon as I see one, I post it. I know that few people like those. I would be interested in one. We'll have to see. The problem I've got is I think that it's usually like a 41 or a 42 case. It should be the same case as those Indonesian GMTs that I had that I got rid of
Yeah.
because they just wear too big.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But anyways,
Right.
but the friendships and connections, like you and I are at a point in our lives and age that we have started to weed out certain people in our lives that don't bring what we want. Like, right? We've all had friends that we just don't talk to anymore, kind of thing. And when it comes to watches, I will say the majority of my friends now have all come out of the watch collecting hobby, both local, global, across the country. I mean, I have friends everywhere, and it's very cool that this brings so many people together from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's through the same brand or through a certain style or whatever it may be.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. But there's the aspect that happens, and because I teach high school, I get to see this at a slightly different level, and I get to explain this to my students that as you get older, it's more difficult to make friends. And so the friends that you have from childhood, there's a quote that I love. It's like the only kind of friend you can't make is an old friend. It's a fantastic quote, and there's so many levels to that. It's an onion with layers and whatever that you want to go in with. But this hobby allows you to connect with people in a way that's very, very interesting. And but you're coming into a person's life through an aesthetic and what that aesthetic says about them and how you can start to understand that person based upon the aesthetic. And so I don't think that it's any different than art or fashion or anything else you could name. But I find it
Yeah.
to be a really interesting entree into a person's personal life and how you get through that personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next,
You got some stuff.
mine. My comment is that, like, you're talking about connections. My comment is that people matter,
Okay.
and it's part of the same idea that your ability to build relationships, it's important, and it's a matter of your personal integrity. Like, who's the Ponzi scheme Yahoo that just went to prison? You know what I'm talking about.
You're going to have to be more specific than that.
The watch guy. He was anyway. I don't even remember who he was, but he was buying people's watches to sell for them, and then would sell them, but then would buy a Ferrari or rent a Ferrari, and it ended up like massive amounts of fraud and buying watches to sell to other people that he'd already sold to. Anyway, trashing a relationship. And it's the same sort of thing when you get these random weird trolls that happen for the watch world. And so this idea that relationships is like, okay, are you a positive force in social media, in the watch fam? Are you a encouraging person? Are you a cheerleader, essentially? And there are people that post up things that I just detest. I do not like it. It does not fit my aesthetic. And you know what? It's not a problem, because I just scroll on and then I'm encountering something else. Probably some girl in a bikini, but whatever. It's happening a lot more. I'm just saying. So
we need a whole new thread for that.
we probably do. That's a much different discussion. But it still doesn't change the fact that it's like, okay, if you don't like it, it doesn't mean that you need to comment or trash it or do anything else with that. Now, we'll get into the fact that I am opposed to divers on leather. We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
However, I do have that personally myself as not exactly a meme, but it's definitely a trigger point. And people know this, and they will intentionally post things like that and tag me in it in order to get a reaction, which is to a great extent, that's also kind of fun. And so that's another part of the relationship. It's like, okay, I know that I can get a humorous comment from me if I do this, which will increase engagement, and it will start a conversation. And there's all of these things that go with it. And I love that about some of the things that we have in the community and some of the collectors that we interact with. That I know that there's some people that will particularly, they will show me things before they post them, saying, I wanted to let you know first. And that's so precious. It's such a precious little thing, right? If I'm going to do any, and the post that I throw up, anytime I get something, I will post a picture of what I actually got in the box. And then the next thing that I will post will be opening the box. So that way, when you scroll through, you see what's in the box versus the actual unveiling of it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those times, like, I will send the picture of what I got before I post any of that. I'll send it to one of the group chats. Mike gets to see it first. It's like, okay, because he knows what I'm purchasing. Like, oh, I bought this, or this is coming in, or whatever. It's like, okay, check this out, and it's better or worse than what we expected. Here are the details. Here's what I think about it, and then we can have a discussion about it, and then I'll post it someplace else. And so this idea that the way that people matter, and the way that these relationships matter, and the way that you interact with people in this hobby becomes a really important thing. And it's not entirely integrity, but it's really, really close. Yeah,
no, I'll agree with that 100%. I have nothing more to add to it. I have nothing negative to say about it. I think that's perfectly stated.
Well, there you go. Perfectly stated. You heard it. Mike said he agreed. He said it was perfectly stated.
Which is a very rare thing for us.
Very rare. Very rare, because people matter.
Don't agree on
all right. Okay. My next
This next one, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this. I'm
research
curious how
matters.
this all fits in.
Okay. So
Research matters.
research matters. And the discussion that goes behind that, you need to know what you're doing. And I'm not saying that because I think you're an idiot. I am saying that because it's going to save you money. And
I feel like this is a story of the pot calling the kettle black right now.
it is. Oh, it absolutely is. And because but when you start thinking about this Italian market watch that I bought that I need to move on, that I've got to get rid of. There is no research I could have done on that. There is not a lot available information on those. There's not a question about how they wear. And granted, after I got it, I got some more information and I was able to find more stuff on it. And it's like, yes, this absolutely is not what I want. And I can reinforce that with the research that I have, but that research wasn't available when I purchased the watch. That research was something that I was able to determine once I had it in hand. And so this becomes an aspect, and it goes as a part of the same discussion. You hear the conversation where they say buy the seller, don't buy the watch, buy the seller. And I think that matters more in higher end watches. If you're spending multiple thousands of dollars on watches, then you are probably into a much different type of a relationship. That's not me. I'm not collecting at that level. I think the most I've spent on a watch was a little bit over $2,000.
Yeah.
And so I'm not in that echelon of collecting, and I think that's a really important point, that when you're at this lower level, and I think that is a lot of our listeners, and I'm not saying that to be disparaging, but know what it is that you're looking for, particularly when you are down in the I found this in a drawer level. When you're down in the listing has misspellings because nobody's sure exactly what it is level. When it's listed incorrectly, knowing what you're looking for and being someone who is able to share your knowledge matters, and being a reliable source matters. And I know that I can speak for Mike, because I know that you are a resource for Jetstars. I'm a resource for Devil Divers. And between the two of us, we have a really solid handle on what those watches are, what they're supposed to be, if it's correct, if it's not correct, and what the potential pitfalls will be. So there's a level of collectors that are reaching out to both of us about that, and being part of that research is important, because it means that I need to be an honest broker. I need to share the resources that I have, that I've cultivated, and I need to be able to be reliable, and also to be able to admit, it's like, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't think I've encountered anybody who will not answer questions. They may not answer them to my satisfaction, but they're always willing to give me some kind of answer. And I love that about part of this hobby, and about what it is that we do, and how it is that we're able to interact. I think that's a special aspect of what goes on in the watch community.
I think as a whole, we're all here to empower one another.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And so that takes me into my last.
Did I just segue into your?
It was beautiful. Point? It was a beautiful segue. There it is.
I find this one funny.
Do you? Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick.
Don't be that guy.
Well, but this is a big deal, and it's a big deal, and I know that this matters to you, because you have problems with some of the collector groups. And the problems that you have with some of the collector groups is that it's not exactly gatekeeping, but there is a stratification, a caste system. There is a, like, you don't have a whatever. You don't have a this. You don't have a that. You are not collecting watches that are of this level. And it's like, no, I don't have a Patek. I don't have a Louis Arad. I don't have an FP Journe. I don't have a Rolex. I don't have a Chopard. I'm not gonna. And that's okay, because my collecting journey is a completely different one. And I know you and I have been to watch events together where we're listening to people argue about the font on Patek Philippe watches, which is
I remember that. Yes.
right. And it's a ridiculous conversation to have, particularly when we're talking about vehement opinions about something. Like, these guys were arguing about it. It was not a healthy ribbing.
The best part about that conversation was it was the perfect example of one-upping, because one guy was talking about this. He's like, oh, well, I got this one. Oh, well, you got that. But yeah, but I have this. Oh, I've got this one on hold. And oh, I got that one. And it just kept going up and up and up and up and up. And it
Right.
was, you know,
It was a level of dick measuring that was it was unpleasant.
I didn't want to say it, but yes, that's
That's
exactly
what it
what
was. That's exactly what it was. And so, when we start to have this conversation, it's like the watch groups that I am a part of, and the people that I have the most fun with, it's the guys that show up with the G-Shock collection. It's like, that's glorious. You have a G-Shock collection. It's not one or two, it's 12, it's 13. And you know what the specs are, you know what the differences are. You like, I've got these specific JDM versions. Like, you know what? I want all of that. Give me all of that information. I will not wear any of those. That is not my jam. I don't want it. I'm not involved. I have not invested. But for you, and the fact that you're geeking out on this, and the fact that I can show you my Bulova stuff and you're going to geek out on that, and between the two of us, like, we're going to appreciate the fact that we are both a otaku level of geek on a very specific thing. Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that that's absolutely wonderful. And that when you can be around the people that will maybe not encourage, but appreciate, and they can take a look at and appreciate the things that you are doing. Encouragement, I don't think that we need a whole lot of that, right? Mike's point about justifying the purchase. Like, I don't need enablers at this point in time. I'm able to do that all by myself.
We all are. And I am, and I tell everybody that, I'm in conversation with, that says, I'm thinking about buying this watch, and what is your opinion on it? I'd be like, you're coming to the wrong guy, because I will make you buy that watch.
Your voodoo doesn't work on me, but Oliver's the one who showed me that red dial. I'm like, shit, I gotta get it.
There's stuff that I've made you buy, and you know it, and there's stuff that you made me buy.
That's true.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of Oliver, I want to throw this in here real quick, because going back to the level of dick measuring.
Okay, I'm in. I need another drink.
We just had this conversation with him too in this particular group chat.
Your comment was that you don't like Rolex.
But that I don't like Rolex.
You said I don't like Rolex, but it wasn't even in reference to collectors, because you have a grudge against Rolex. And so let's delve into that, because I think continue.
Well, he said, I don't think it's that you don't like Rolex. You don't like the people who wear Rolex as status. Right. And I think that is 100% correct. And if you're coming into this and you're going to try and have a conversation with me and tell me why your Rolex is the best thing in the world, and rattle off all the sales numbers that you can find in the brochure, I'm really not interested to talk to you. But if you're going to bring me something and you're passionate about it, and you can have a passionate conversation about that timepiece that I may not necessarily appreciate, but you can make me appreciate your passion for it, I am all for you. And I am all for you owning that watch. And I am happy that makes you proud. More power to you.
I think it goes along the same line that you've got the people that are collecting watches for clout. And I'm collecting a watch because of its value, and I'm collecting a watch of what it means. And you are looking at dollar signs on my wrist. versus the person that's collecting bubble backs. You know, I went to pick up a Linden dial Datejust, and I have a 1675 Pepsi GMT, not from a collector standpoint, but because this is the Pan Am watch, and it's a Pan Am watch. And let's look at the fade on this bezel, and it's all original. And da 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 da. It's like at that point in time, I'm in.
Yeah.
You want to talk to me about the latest Serichrome that you were on the wait list for 16 months and all the things that go along with that, and you're using it specifically for clout? I'm like, no. And then worse, like those guys flip them. It's like, yeah, come on. I don't need that. I don't need that kind of abuse. But to speak to illustrate a little bit more of the point, and it's something that our friend Jason from Watch Rolling brought up, and it was on one of his recent podcasts. And it was, don't yuck somebody else's yum. And that's
makes sense, though.
It is. It makes perfect sense, but that's his quote. Yeah. And his point is, there is a difference between things that are objective versus things that are subjective. And you cannot have these hard, fast opinions on just about anything when it comes to the watch world. It's like I have a collector friend who is deeply into JDM G-Shocks. And he has a massive collection and a bunch of wonderful vintage Rolex and modern. And so usually he'll double wrist, and he's got Datejust, GMT, Yachtmaster, and Peacock GMT, or Peacock G-Shock on the other wrist. I'm like, it was like, okay, yeah, the Rolex is nice, but tell me more about that. Tell me more about your G-Shock. I want to hear that story. And he's like, oh, yeah, JDM, well, it's specific to this level, and you can only buy it in the blah, 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 blah. I'm like, that's bitching. Everything about that's bitching. The Rolex is nice. That's cool. Mm-hmm. So it's this idea that the hard, fast rules that work for you specifically may not work for everybody. And in that space, you should not try to impose your own diction onto other collectors, with the exception of leather on divers. That is the only hard, fast rule. There is no way you will be able to convince me otherwise. And it's really interesting, too, because Jason brought that up. He's like, oh, no, you could wear leathers on divers because, I've had boots where I've gotten salt water in them. And so all you got to do is, you go and you wash them out with fresh water, then you dry them and you put this cream on, and then you put this other cream on, and then you have to work the stuff into the bottom, and you make sure that it's already good. You got to dry it out. And I'm like, okay, you're doing that every time you take your watch in the water or the leather strap. That's what you're telling me, that you have a watch that is dive capable in salt water with a leather strap, and that every time you take it into the water, you need to now take off the strap and treat it completely to eliminate the salt. That immediately says you can't wear leather and divers, and it's it. And I'm done.
Joe, I would like to direct your attention to the very first point that we talked about at the top of the show, which is have an open mind.
No. This is my hill. I'm not only willing to die on it, but I'm also willing to kill people. So I don't know if there's hard, fast rules, but that's mine. Anyway.
But and you know what the best part about that is, and I forget exactly which watch it is, in the line book from factory.
Yes.
Comes on shark leather.
Yes,
and you refuse
the Deep Sea B,
but
Deep Sea B on shark leather, which I own.
I know that's the other great part about it is you are such a factory correct bracelet strap whatever that I'm
that kind of completist. I have the factory correct strap, and what do I wear it on?
Yes, I know.
Tropic.
But that's the greatest part is you bought the shark leather correct strap for that watch. I have
the correct strap for that watch. In the event that I ever sell it, it's going to go with both of them, and somebody's going to be incredibly happy. So
it's hilarious. I love it.
We all have our own allergies, our own individual picadillos, and so
I guess
that's mine. And it isn't. That isn't to say that. And there have been multiple times that I have seen dive watches on leather straps, and I will admit that they look good, and I will admit that it's an excellent combination, and it's just not for me. And it's not something that I would do, and it has to do with, my personality, my personal opinions, and all the shit that goes with that.
So for the longest time, my surfboard was on Stingray.
Mm-hmm.
Is that acceptable?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I don't know that I am as opinionated on something as you are the topic of divers and leather.
You are not.
Yeah,
You are
okay.
not. Don't get me started in beans and chili.
And that truly means that I am not, because if I was, you'd be quick to point it out.
I would.
I am the purest of heart.
You are. Well, you're something. Like, we can start talking about Chicago pizza if you want.
Let's not.
Okay.
Let's
so
not.
There are some opinions. Mike's got opinions. He just doesn't want to share them. That's fine.
Well, on that note, last call. You got something?
No, I am all tapped out. I've got nothing really incoming. I've got nothing really. The only thing that I've been thinking about recently, is the East Coast reaction to the West Coast fires, because Complecto was going to have an event this month in LA that they had told me about, and that I was really interested in going to, because it would be an opportunity for me to bring my Complecto.
Remember this,
yeah. Right? And I've been asking, and there's been no chatter about it. And then also the Bulova movie premiere was supposed to be in January. It got pushed to February, and now I don't know if it's going to happen or not. And so it's an interesting aspect of media that the facts on the ground aren't exactly represented in the media in the same way, because what's going on in LA right now and what's going on the West Coast is like, yeah, there's cleanup and there's all of these things that are happening and there are problems, but the affected area is still relatively small. And so like the ability to have some event or to make your time and make your point, make your place, it could still happen.
For the people who are going through the cleanup and the loss and things like that, probably would very much appreciate some distraction.
I don't disagree. I don't know that the people in Malibu are going to a Bulova movie premiere. Well, I don't think that that's outside the realm of possibility, but I don't think that is high up on their social calendar. That being said, I could be wrong, and I would hope that I am, but I also think that level of distraction might be really interesting, and that maybe I do want to put on something nice and go and forget about
a reason to dress nice and kind of forget about what's going on for an evening. And I can see that. So
I can too, and I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing or a positive. It's neither here nor there, and it's also outside of my realm of control or command or anything along those lines. But
we have nothing to do with putting this on or anything. But you have Joe's permission, and he speaks for all of LA. It's okay to come.
I speak for Southern California.
Yeah,
there was an election.
Yeah, and Joe says it's safe to come. You are welcome.
We got stuff.
Bring it on.
Coming out. Bring your watches.
Yeah. There was something I was going to talk about, and I thought about it this morning, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually going to have a last call. And wouldn't you know that I've forgotten completely what it's about? So I am sad-faced.
I'd say I'm surprised, but I know you.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
I know that you know that I know that you know.
So how do we get in touch, Mike?
Today, Joe, you and I, we make up the Spring Bar Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at the Spring Bar Podcast. You can email us thespringbarpodcast@gmail.com. On a personal level, I am 120 clicks, all spelled out, one long word, 120 clicks. Joe.
And watch Taylor UPH, all long one word, one long, but there's words.
Joe has a two truly limit.
It's been a day, man. I've been up for a little while. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying that I'm up that early every single day, so I don't.
Yeah,
I don't feel too bad.
Yeah, but who's grumpy? You are.
Yeah. Well, until next time, when one of us is completely unprepared for the next episode that we're going to have.
There it is. Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.